Hello and welcome. Andy from Twisted Narrative here. Yet another Candela Obscura assignment ahead of us. Before we go into that, let us introduce our cast. A couple of not necessarily new faces to the YouTube channel, but certainly to Candela Obscura tonight. Always keen to welcome new people in. But first, we will start at the top with Natascha.
Hello, I'm Natascha. I'm from the Netherlands, also playing from the Netherlands. I've been playing quite a bit of Dungeons and Dragons since 2016 and Shadowrun, but for the past couple of weeks it's been mostly Candela Obscura for some reason,
But yeah,
and
well,
I'm liking it a lot.
yeah, it's good. We like to mix it up a bit, but I don't know. I've got so many ideas exploding from my head. I need to get it out. I just need to, which is why tonight should hopefully be a one shot, but who knows? Who knows? But we'll move across to another familiar face to those of you who have viewed our Candela Obscura um, streams, actual plays. Jocelyn.
Hello, my name is Jocelyn. I will be playing a different character tonight. I had inhaled everything about Candela Obscura within 24 hours of it coming to the UK on Twitch, and dove into the first game that Andy ran 3 days later, and have played just about everyone since.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really enjoying the system, and I think if you go and watch the previous video we did, which was only 2 nights ago on Sunday night, I was still learning, considering it's just quick start rules, kind of some of the nuances with the game, and very much enjoying it. Move down now to Rachel.
Hi, yeah, so I'm Rachel. I play with Andy quite a lot, and also in other groups with Kristian. But I am new to Candela Obscura. I've never played any of those games or really read anything about it other than the quick start guide recently. So I'm looking forward to seeing how it plays. It looks like it's fairly familiar in style to some of the other games we play, like Blades in the Dark. But yeah, looking forward to seeing how it goes.
Yeah, we've played with people that have not really looked at the rule set, and they've picked it up very rapidly as well. So I am interested genuinely to see your opinion of it at the end of the show. Last but not least, it is my sidekick from the 6 o'clock club from long ago. Kristian, introduce yourself.
Hello, everybody. It's Kristian here. Long-time collaborator with Andy, and occasional gem on this channel as well of Blades in the Dark. I've not really seen much about Candela Obscura. As from the 6 o'clock club, I've not really followed it or the world of Critical Role at all. So Andy convinced me to play earlier in the week. I've taken a very quick look at the quick start guide, but I'll be honest, as I've said before, I'm never one for rules. So hopefully I can pick it up as I go along.
I think the system is rules light. I think you can focus on the character that you want to play, and we can help guide you. But fundamentally, you tell me what your character wants to do, and we'll decide what you need to roll to see whether you're successful or not. So another content warning. We have to do this for the well-being of both our cast and the audience. Candela Obscura is a horror-based game which contains mature themes, including but not limited to body horror, graphic violence, blood, death, power imbalances, sexual themes, and social injustice. Please kind of watch at your own discretion, and if you need to take a break from the stream, please do. We will be using a system of lines and veils for our cast to ensure their well-being as well. I don't really want to say much more than that for spoiler reasons. We have played games of it, to be perfectly honest, where nothing has been touched at all. It's been akin to a comedy game. So you know, we do the warnings, but sometimes they're not necessary. So who knows what is going to happen over the next 2 to 3 hours. And with that, let us launch into our assignment tonight. Before we do that, actually, I'm a little bit of an idiot. I better explain to our viewers, you, the cast, know I'm not using the setting of Candela Obscura tonight before I launch into the assignment and everybody goes, what's going on? I decided to do a little bit of twist on it. So tonight we will be placing the game using the rule set in an alternate Victorian setting. It's going to be set, well, we're going to start off in London, Victorian London, after the Great War, and we're going to have kind of real world locations and some real world myth weaved into this tale. And it'll be interesting if you are sort of viewing and you like that kind of stuff. Feel free to Google some of the things that we mentioned and see the kind of threads and sort of storylines that I've weaved this tale from. So yes, it is important to note. I forgot to mention that. So without further ado, let us actually go into the assignment. It is London. You have all been requested urgently to meet at your lightkeeper's abode, house. Very rapidly, as best as you can, you make your way through the rainy streets of old London town. Your lightkeeper isn't a wealthy man by any means, but has a modest house within the boundaries of Bow Bells. His name is Edgar Tremblay, and you all sort of look at him, wondering what he's about to request of you. And as you look at him, you see he's a small man, standing just over 5'7", big sideburns, definitely grey before the time. You're all aware that he is quite a renowned medium and spiritualist himself, and of course a lightkeeper for Candela Obscura. You're in his parlour, and there's a circular table with a large black velvet cloth drapes down to the floor, and on which rests a spirit board. He also has a fine collection of commemorative plates from times long ago. He looks at you one at a time, and he looks concerned. And this is a point that we will introduce you both to the viewers and to the other cast members. We'll start off with you, Natascha. What is the character you will be bringing to the assignment tonight?
That will be Magdalena Olsen, clearly of some Northern European country, migrated into Victorian London at a young age, standing well over 6 feet tall, long blonde hair done up in a bun, and wearing flowing cotton undergarments topped with a flowing silk light blue dress. She sits down at the seance table, back against the wall. She starts playing with a coin between her fingers, making it walk all over, but also across the table, and then back on her fingers again. As she's looking around casually, not staring, but just interested in who else will join.
Okay, and we move to Jocelyn. Who are you bringing to this assignment?
Mildred Andrews. She is in her late 40s, very stringy, unkempt hair, dirty clothes, gray, brown, black. Clearly has seen much, much better days. Very furtive, very, very much keeping to the shadows.
Perfect. Okay. So almost, yeah, trying to keep yourself out of the way. Obviously, people are aware of you. We move down to Rachel. Who are you bringing to this assignment?
Yep, so I'll have Dahlia Sherborne, and she's a tall and slim lady who wears a long dress, long sleeves, long gown of black lace with a veil, so she looks rather widowy. And underneath she's quite gaunt, but with makeup and red lips.
Perfect. And last but not least, Kristian.
So you'll be looking at Professor Morgan, but his friends call him. He's of medium height, thin, pale. Looks like he doesn't get enough sunlight. Wears glasses, big mutton chop sideburns. Comes in with a tall hat on, quite a large overcoat, but very well dressed. He's also carrying a battered brown leather doctor's bag. His brown hair is slightly peppered with grey, potentially in his 30s, but it's difficult to say.
Perfect. As you all assemble there, you see that your lightkeeper sort of nods. He says, thank you for answering the call urgently. I'm going to have to send you back in time. He reaches for a newspaper and puts it onto the spirit board. You can all see the headlines. Says, Professor Socrates Sterling attempts to travel to the moon. He kind of tops it and says, this is not natural, and yes, back in time, all the way to Cornwall. They are certainly behind the times there by a good number of decades. But it is important, as he's chosen that as the place to launch. Professor, you're a man of science, and as far as I'm aware, such a thing is not possible at the moment, but this professor is adamant to do this. Kind of looks at the newspaper article, a wager with other members of his smoking club. You're all aware that smoking club actually means gun club. What are your thoughts on this? Is it safe? Is it going to cause any damage to? Is it going to cause bleed? It kind of opens it up to the room.
Well, I suppose he's a man of science, so of course it's going to be dangerous. I mean, that's most of what good science is, danger. The thrill of pursuing a line of reasoning and experimenting with it.
Yeah, but parameters, surely. Something that is perhaps going to cause untold damage and an unreasonable amount of bleed. Not that any bleed is reasonable, is beyond thinking of.
Surely, if he's... Go ahead.
What makes you think that this particular technological innovation will be the source of bleed? Have the spirits spoken to you?
The spirits don't know about much things, science.
No need to. There's bleed everywhere anyhow. Anything could make it get worse.
What I need you to do is, as I say, go down there, speak with him, find out whether it is dangerous, and if it is, persuade him or put a stop to such madness. If it is safe, I have no objections to such an endeavour, of course. I have already taken the liberty of booking tickets down to Plymouth first class, of course. It'll be quite a arduous journey, though. It is maybe a day and a half. Hence, sleeper cabins have been organised for you, and unfortunately, the only accommodation close to where the launch site is well, an old coaching inn by the name of Jamaica Inn, in fact. It's not particularly comfortable, but it will keep the elements off you, certainly. It is very much.
That's a step up from what I'm used to, but do you seriously think they're going to let me in first class? I mean, have you smelled these rags lately?
Oh, you're eccentric. Don't worry. They get worse people.
And you have a ticket.
Which is
Yes.
the important part here.
Yes. No, don't worry. The people who attend first class are paid enough to turn a blind eye to anything, especially for the fee that they're paid.
You got blind noses on that train.
I mean, if you wish to use the facilities, clean yourself up, Mildred, you are more than welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Edgar. It's very kind of you.
And I've said we can find accommodations for you if need be. You don't have to live the way that you choose to live. Not now you are part of this circle. I'm sure the professor has some spare rooms.
Of course. I would gratefully take you in.
So, my library is of use to you if you wish. I've booked the tickets for about 24 hours from now, giving you a degree of time should you wish to speak with any of your associates, do any research that you wish. For believe me, when you head off from here, you will be heading out into the moors, and they don't have any sort of telegraph stations there or anything. You will be quite isolated.
I think I like that.
Is there a manner that we should keep you updated?
Well, I have every faith in you all. I have every faith in you all. So just do what you are good at.
Magdalena,
With that, he says, obviously, my resources are available to you all. I'll leave you to discuss your way forward, provided you don't have any more questions for me.
Do we know anything
No.
about the professor other than his ambitions?
He's got a list of, rather awkward and clumsy failings. He seems to be eccentric, and he seems to have all sorts of different ideas. I believe he has studied archaeology as well as the sciences. It is what worries me. Not just the endeavour itself, the physical damage he might do with such an endeavour, but also if he is leaning into perhaps more dubious territories to ensure that it is a success.
what physical damage could he possibly do to Cornwall? I mean, it's barren and bleak, and all his rocket will probably do is make another barren and bleak place among barren and bleak places.
Well,
With a nice little edge of bleed around it, probably.
Well, if it's a science project, surely no magic or occult happening should be involved.
this is exactly why I'm asking you to go to uncover whether it is safe or not. I'm uneasy about it. Besides which, I've heard that the air in Cornwall is quite bracing.
So, Edgar, yeah, have we got any connections of the sort that I would be able to help with? Because I made some friends on the inside, but the only ones from down that far, I don't think they're getting out. At least not for another 10 years.
Well, I mean, I'm not sure who you. I mean, there is a Bodmin jail still, but I don't know whether you know anybody that is resident there. That is your closest. There's a prison on
Oh,
Dartmoor as well.
Bodmin, that sounds familiar. I might know somebody who knows somebody. Yeah, I'll look into it.
The place is awash with myths and legends. Everything from pixies, fae, Cornish tales, the wreckers, even the once and future king. Everything between. Maybe it is an opportunity for you to uncover other things whilst you are there. Perhaps you might find answers that you seek for your own individual quests.
Usually it is I who solve for others. No doubt there are many of those as well.
Well, I'll leave you all to discuss. I have business. I have someone to speak to. If you need me before your train leaves, you know where to find me. And with that, he makes his excuses, leaving you able to discuss if there's anything
Bye.
you want to do. Bye.
I
Well,
suppose we should pack.
I suppose we should.
I'm packed.
Traveling light. That's a very sensible way to live. I'm going to go to the library and I'd like to see if I can find any books on, well, the sorts of chemicals that could make these explosions and how dangerous they are. Rule out the scientific before we get into the supernatural, as it were. And, well, I also don't think Bodmin's a very good launch site. So I'm going to go see if I can find out some more about Cornwall.
Yeah, Magdalena will want to read up on Bodmin more and Cornwall in general, since she's basically been living in London and not been much interested in areas further away.
Perfect. So one assumes you two are heading off to do that research. Mildred, are you doing anything in particular before we leave?
I'm gonna head to my little squatters encampment area and ask the friend who would know the friend who would know the friend who got transferred to Bodmin, if the friend of that friend had been released already, so that I would have a contact.
Okay. Now, that was a lot of words and a lot of friends, but
Yes,
I think you are playing a certain type of character, aren't you?
yes.
What kind of character are you playing?
I am playing a criminal.
A criminal. So is this using one of your special abilities, or is this just you trying to get a contact down there?
This would actually just be trying to get a contact.
Okay. So you go off and attempt to do that. Dahlia, are you doing anything with the others or by yourself?
I don't think Dahlia is going to go with anyone else, but she will return to her lodgings to pack, but also she will sit and do a tarot reading.
Okay, very nice. So, are people using quite possibly the best resources in the world at the moment? The British Museum and British Library. You put your heads together there. I need one of you to make a group roll. This will be one I would sort of suggest is a focus roll, but I'm happy for you to suggest a different type of skill if you are using a different way or method of getting this information.
I think certainly for Professor Morgan, it's going to be focus. That seems the best one for him.
Now, are you happy, Magdalena, to let the professor make the roll based on that?
Yeah, I will even assist him so he can use another dice.
Okay, so you're spending one of your drives to give you an extra dice. What you need here, Professor, because I think focus, you have a gilded dice, is that correct?
I do, yes.
So you will roll just the 3 dice, but one of them needs to be rolled separately or a different coloured dice to indicate your gilded dice.
Okay. So the blue one is my gilded dice.
Perfect.
Well,
this is where we go. Fortunately, this is a non-critical roll. You pick up some information. It is general information, of which is still relevant. Because you are in such a great institution that you're in, it's not a role that you can easily fail. I mean, a mean GM would probably say you accidentally hit one of the gas lamps and burn both institutions to the ground. But no. Firstly, the rocket science is cutting edge, so there's not a lot of information there. It is a new science. You kind of look at some of the older texts that are theoretical rather than perhaps practical. Putting your head around it, it's very, very difficult. The amount of explosive force to sort of break free of that Newtonian gravity. I mean, you would need a blast of an unparalleled amount. So you begin to think it's either doomed to failure or there must be something else in here. Now, that something else could be very skilled alchemical kind of substance instead, or it could be leading into perhaps the supernatural. In terms of everything else, looking through periodicals, it seems that there are a few stories upon the launch site. Yep.
Can I take over for a little while?
Yep.
At one point, Professor Morgan finds Magdalena giggling, sitting in a chair and just unable to stop laughing. And when she finally catches her breath, she's read up on something called the Brown Willy effect, which is a weather phenomenon on the Bodmin Moor caused by this hill and some rain. And the hill is called a Brown Willy, and for some reason, with all the double entendres around the word Willy, Magdalena is in giggles and won't be able to talk or speak for at least 5 minutes.
I don't. I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't understand the joke. No, it's a perfectly normal phenomena. I mean, similar phenomena happen all over. I mean, I've not seen it. I mean, the other week I was walking up Lord Hereford's Knob, in Herefordshire, and I mean that was we had some very strange weather there as well. Why are you giggling? Well, I mean, I'm glad you have a sense of humor. I wish I did.
But it's a pertinent find for In fact, Brown Willie is the highest hill in Cornwall. It is also 4 miles from Jamaica Inn, and it is also the chosen launch site of this Professor Socrates Sterling. So it sounds very much you will be continuing your hiking across the moors to reach that place.
Can we go back a minute to gilded dice?
Yes.
What's the gilded?
Okay, so on your character sheet, you have sort of diamonds by all of your skills.
Yeah.
The ones that are shaded in means that you've got a gilded dice in that skill. That means whenever you roll those dice, you replace one of those dice with a different coloured dice that acts as your gilded dice. And when you roll it on a 1 to 3, it's a failure. 4 to 5 is a success with a complication, and a 6 is a success without a complication. But you get to choose which dice that you want. You only choose one dice, but you get to choose one of those dice to represent your result. If you choose the gilded dice and use that score, you gain one of your drives back. It refreshes a drive. So you might, for instance, roll a couple of dice, get a 5 on the gilded dice, but a 6 on the non-gilded dice, and you might go, I'm going to use the success with a repercussion rather than the automatic success because I'm going to refresh my drive. Sometimes you might even choose to take a complete failure to refresh your drive for the future. That's what the gilded dice mechanic does. Hopefully.
And it only works for the group of roles that you're in. So
Yeah.
I think,
So if you use a gilded dice in intuition, you gain a drive back in intuition. Have I explained that okay to you? Cool, because I'm never quite sure. So you've learnt about Brown Willie, that the explosive force needed is going to take a little more than what can be provided through normal scientific means. As I said, whether that is alchemical or perhaps even supernatural or occult is to be decided upon. Mildred, you head back to a number of these sort of dives in the East End of London. 'Tis a place of true poverty here. It's a place that you are familiar with, though. I'm going to need you to do a social roll here to see if you can actually find if anybody has been transferred. So this will probably be well, I'm going to let you try and persuade me by what kind of role you would like to try and make.
I guess the most convincing one is sway because that includes consort.
Yeah, I'm happy with sway. Sway seems to be quite a social one, convincing and the like. So
what about, is there any chance that I could convince you to take read instead? Because that has to do with interpreting body language and seeing if people are lying to me.
I'm happy with that.
Okay.
But because you've asked for that and it's got gilded dice, I'm going to up the stakes. You can have sway as normal, which will be if you fail it, there's maybe repercussions, but they're not critical repercussions. If you fail the one of your choosing, then there will be critical repercussions.
Oh, it's a one shot. Let's go for the critical repercussions.
You should always go for the critical repercussions anyway.
Yes. All right. So I've got 1 in read, and and it's gilded, and I'm also going to spend a drive of my own. And yes.
Very nice. See, it's good. So there's a repercussion, but a success. And, you know, I should ask you, one automatically assumes that you want to take the best of the roles, because it's probably sensible, but you don't have to. So you've got a 5 on the gilded dice, which is a success with a complication, and it refreshes your drive. It was worth doing. So you do find out, actually, something really useful. One of your someone that you know, someone that you did time with, was transferred down to Bodmin Jail, has currently been released, and is now acting as a member of staff at one of the landowners' piles, which is quite nice. The landowner, it goes by the name of Lord Lancelot Lamb. He's got quite a large estate. You know, just Bodmin Moor itself is a common land, but he's just on the outskirts of Bodmin town. The complication is that you owe them, and they haven't been paid yet.
Does she have a name?
Well, we've discovered that it's a she, certainly.
Well, it would have been a women's prison.
Yeah, I mean, not necessarily, but I'm more than happy to accept that.
I'm sorry. I just assumed that that's how things would have been done.
You
But it's up to you. It's your world.
The kind of time that you would have done, you probably would have all been piled together. It was
Oh gosh.
quite brutal. You know, it's not a nice environment there. And it depends on whether you did time with them or whether it was a friend of a friend of a friend that you knew, sort of thing, really. But anyway, the name of this individual, let me just have a look for you. What I want you to tell me is, what do you owe them?
Someone had it in for me in the jail because they heard rumors about why I was there, about the sort of secret reasons behind why I was there, and they were trying to shiv me, and this person knocked it out of their hand, and I swore that I would do anything they wanted once I got out, and once I got out, I didn't go look them up.
Okay. It is female. We have decided that now, and her name is Fronnie O'Shea. I mean, she might well have fallen on her feet if she's now working for on the estate of a local lord, or maybe she's just using that to case the joint.
That's funny.
Okay, so finally we move to, and I keep pronouncing your name wrong. It's not Dahlia, it's Dahlia. Is that
Dahlia,
right?
yeah.
Dahlia. Cool, Dahlia. You wanted to do a tarot reading. Now, is this something that you want to do a check for, or is this just cinematic flavour?
I mean, it is cinematic, in that that's the kind of thing she would be doing. There isn't a specific skill for it or anything like that. It could be a sense roll, though,
Yeah,
potentially.
the sense and focus, and there's a whole
Yeah, both of
lot
those are the
yeah.
same for the
Uh,
occultist. So
but if you're happy with a sense, you can give us a sense roll. This is, and again, I'll give you what we would have used in Blades in the Dark, a Devil's Bargain. You can just have it as flavour, and if you're successful, you might pick up a hint, or you could have it as a critical, which means that if you do fail, things will go wrong and you will receive a mark. But if it goes right, you'll get a large sort of
Okay.
information.
Yeah, let's go for the bargain then. Why not?
Okay. So
Okay.
once again, you're by yourself, so you can't really lean into anybody else lending you a drive, but you can spend your own drives. You can spend as many as you want, up to the limit that you have in that
Okay.
block.
Do I need to say in advance
Yeah,
I'm going to spend?
because
Yeah.
they add to your dice rolls.
Okay. Let's say spend one then, because that's what you can do, isn't it? Anyway, you can only
No,
spend one.
no, you can spend as many as you want.
Alright.
Other people can only give you one.
Yeah, okay. Well, I will only spend one anyway.
Okay. So I believe that
so
gives you 3 dice plus you have one of those as a
Yeah.
gilded dice.
Yeah. So nice one. So 2. Oh, sorry, I still added an extra one.
It's okay. That's nice. So
So the
it's
gilded
good.
one will be
A
the
success
better.
with you. Yeah, absolutely. So you get the drive back that you did, and you've got a success with a complication, which is fine. It's not going to cause you any marks. As you put out your tarot cards, the reading seems to indicate that yes, there is something very wrong with this. Not so much with the launch, but there are forces rising to the launch itself is the catalyst of supernatural forces rising. It's not overly clear exactly what, but certainly moon related. And you get a sort of large shiver down as you realize this launch quite possibly will be instrumental in many deaths. It's not set in stone, and you get the impression that the launch is the catalyst, not the actual launch itself, but the success of the launch, the operation of going through this launch procedure is definitely worth your investigations.
All right.
But I will also give you hints as you get closer, as you have attuned to this through your tarot cards. Very good. So with that then, it takes you most of the rest of the time you have in London to do these investigations. You find yourselves eventually all at the train station, the grand, beautiful glass gilded train station, steam trains. It's very good. People running for it, people saying their goodbyes, people welcoming people arriving back in London. You are given your seats and your carriages, your sleeper carriages to sleep in. Now there is an awkward sort of number of people here, in the fact that an oversight by Edgar, a mistake, maybe one of the repercussions is that he's only booked 2 sleeper carriages. So you need to decide who is sleeping with who. They're bunks, obviously. So who wants to sort of sleep with who? Who's going to claim which carriages?
I've slept. This will be one of the nicest places I've slept in since I was 20. I can sleep on the floor. I don't mind. I know I'm the least desirable carriage mate, roommate. I promise I will wash.
Oh, Pish and Tish, you can stay with me. Stay in the bed. It'll be a wonderful experience. If it's the first time you've ever stayed in a sleeper carriage, oh, they're absolutely marvelous. You'll love it.
I have actually, when I was younger.
Oh, well then, we can talk and reminisce about old times.
Thank you, Professor.
Oh, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. He doesn't pick up on the cue.
So that
Well-
leaves. Yeah, sorry, Magdalena.
Yeah, well, that leaves the top bunk for you because, yeah, rather heavy person. I'd rather sleep on the bottom if you don't mind.
That's quite understandable.
There is wash basins in here, and it is all the luxuries of the time. You are aware that this journey is going to take you close to a day and a half as you go down the west coast line. The views are spectacular once you leave London. You do have a little bit of time to speak with each other about what you found, what your hopes are, what you want to do when you arrive down there. You can do this easily in private should you wish to as well. So
Yeah, definitely. Potentially when we all gather for dinner or whatever.
Yep.
Dahlia will pass on. I took a reading, and there is a definite pull to this event. That it is the catalyst for something to manifest, to happen, some supernatural cataclysm.
I told you. Bleed.
Yes, I think you're quite right, Mildred. Now, I don't think, Professor, necessarily that it's the rocket is powered with something supernatural or itself launching supernaturally, but if it goes ahead, or there, that is likely to be the catalyst. There are likely forces behind the project or steering it in some way that will be triggered by its happening. It is possible the moon is a key element of this.
That's a very... yes, the moon.
The trip is to the moon, and the cards indicated that perhaps whatever is seeking to come through is related to that. Some kind of moon presence.
Professor, how far away is the moon?
A long way. I'm afraid I'm more of a specialist in chemicals. I'm afraid, but it's a great many miles away. It would take some explosive force, some huge explosive force. I mean, none of the chemicals I'm aware of are even enough to get it off the ground. I mean, I would be impressed to see his formulae, but no, we may wish when we get there to see if there are any people that worship the moon. I'm not too au fait in cults and those sorts of people that worship things, druidy things, solstices and things like that. I'm not really up on that. Again, I mostly read books on chemicals, but yes, we may wish to go to the local pub and keep our ear to the ground. Like good common folk.
I've actually got an ear on the ground, on some expensive ground, even an old, shall we say, sort of friend of mine. She's working now for a very, very wealthy landowner near where we're going to be. I could go see her, though. She might be expecting something from me. I don't know how pleased she'll be to see me. Maybe one of or all of you could come with me, but she could be helpful.
It seems a worthwhile lead. Very prudent that this has happened and that you take up the opportunity, Mildred.
I mean, she's a below stairs sort of person, as you might have guessed, a friend of mine would be. But if anyone knows Lord Lancelot Lamb, he owns land just outside of Bodmin Town. Someone like yourself, Professor, maybe you could speak to the Lord, and I could speak to the servant, because I would aspire to be a servant at this point. Although, in a sense, I guess I'm a servant of Mr. Tremblay's. Yes, yes. I think some of my clothes might be dry. I'm going to go wash some more. I'll be back. And I've been sort of while the professor has been kindly out of the room, sort of like taking off a garment, washing it as best I can, drying it in the window, and then waiting for it to dry, and then taking off, putting back on, taking off another garment, washing it, letting it dry in the air, washing my face, washing everything else I can.
Perfect.
Magdalena has checked out some books from the library.
Yep.
And just general knowledge books about Bodmin Moor. And she's come about a few legends in the area as well. So she will talk about them, but she'd be rather dismissive of them because, well, they're myths and legends. Nothing has been proven. Nothing conclusively has been seen or heard or experienced. So as far as she's concerned, they're only legends.
What particular ones do you mention? Or do you want me to mention them?
You can mention them.
Okay. So, I mean, the place Cornwall itself is a place of mysticism, of legend, of myth. King Arthur, Tintagel. But on Bodmin Moor, close, well, to the south of Jamaica in rather than to the north where Brown Willie is, there is Dosmary Pool, which is a site that is claimed to be the home of the Lady of the Lake. It is also said that there is another tale of sort of a landowner and a lawyer by the name of Jan Tregeagle, a terrible man in life who was supposedly made a Faustian bargain with the devil himself, doing a pact to ensure that he became famous, wealthy, and powerful in his life. It is said that he is damned to the bottomless depths of that pool, and he is so tormented that his howls can still be heard across the moor. Then there is those that worship the old ways, ancient religions that still remain down that way. Even Brown Willie is supposedly got a number of khans upon it, one of which might have, a Cornish king perhaps entombed beneath it. These things in myths and legends are also supposed to be passageways to the fairy realms. There is something strange away the Khan on Brown Willie kind of aligns himself with another Khan the way that the moon rises and sets. Everything that you seem to read about it is a mystical place, not necessarily a place of haunts, but a place of possible power. And then more into the mundane, there's all the stories of the wreckers that caused many ships to crash upon the coast, that use Jamaica in itself as a halfway point to bring the illicit gains that they've got. And the whole moor's supposed to be riddled with tunnels and stash places that these smugglers and wreckers used. And just down the road from Jamaica in itself, before you get to Bodmin, is a small hamlet simply known as Temple, supposedly established by the Knights Templar. They were known for their rituals and their dabbling with things that they discovered across Europe and into the Crusades itself. So it seems this is a whole place of mystery. Some of it mundane, some of it perhaps even deliberately created by the smugglers and ne'er-do-wells to hide their tracks. But of course you are Candela Obscura, and you know normally where there's a myth, there is perhaps some truth in it. So Magdalena kind of tells you all of that as well.
Indeed. So there are many potential spiritual powers that could be involved.
Absolutely. You are fed on the train, your first class, wonderful meal. Perhaps the best that you've tasted in a long time, Mildred. There are a couple of eyes that kind of look to you from the other tables, but nothing is particularly said. If there's nothing else you want to do, the journey passes without real incident. You arrive in Plymouth. Your coach awaits you. It has been told to take you to Jamaica Inn, the place where you're going to be lodging, unless you want to give it any other instructions.
One thing that will have happened, Professor Harding very charmingly said that we could chat about past train travels. So when we retire to our room, and I take whichever bunk, and so we're not facing each other or looking at each other, and she's had a glass of wine or two. Professor
Morgan.
Morgan. I don't know where Harding is coming from. Sorry, Morgan is going to realize at some point that she's actually speaking quite calmly, quite lucidly. She's lost all of the panicky mannerisms and sort of living on the street feel to her, and she seems more like a I hate to say ordinary, but ordinary middle-class, middle-aged woman, sort of more along his lines. And then she'll go to sleep, and when she wakes up, she'll be very much on edge again.
Do you wish to do anything about that, Professor Morgan, or do you just take note?
I will literally take note in his book of people interactions he has. And the note he's going to take is Mildred possibly was in the Navy.
Okay. Perfect. So yes, you arrive in Plymouth on time. It was a time, the Victorian era, where trains operated properly. And as I say, you are aware it's about 30 miles to Jamaica Inn. You have to leave the lights of Plymouth behind and then head up into the moors. it's unfortunately going to be an even more arduous sort of 4-hour journey by horse and carriage. I say, provided you don't decide to tell the coach and to take you anywhere else.
No, I think it would be good to get ourselves set up at base, as it were.
Okay.
Where is this this other cairn that you were talking about? Well, we had one cairn on Brown Willie. It's quite amusing, especially rocks on top. And then there's another cairn. Will we be passing close to it?
No. It's 4 miles north of Jamaica Inn, and
Okay.
you are heading up from the south. So
Okay.
the other location, it's a combination of Brown Willie, North Carn. It seems to have a dramatic association with rough Tor, with the strange sort of astronomical, something to do with maybe the autumn equinox. Equinoxes are kind of to do with sunrises, so maybe it's not the same thing, but it's certainly a place of astrological and astronomical interest. So
what time of the year is it now?
it is kind of September time. It's down here high on the moors. It's unpleasant weather. It's not quite, blizzards and the like, but it's misty or tipping down with rain. It's not the best of weathers. You will certainly be getting some of that unpleasant wind chill from Brown Willie. Hopefully you've all brought your protections. Okay, so as you are making your journey, it is uncomfortable. This carriage seems to be taking forever. You leave the lights of Plymouth behind you and head into the darkness of the countryside. The countryside very, very rapidly dissipates to barren moorlands. At this point, you are perhaps not far from your destination, maybe 5 miles or so. The bulk of the journey done, and you have all felt it, every movement through up and down this moorland. There are roads, but they are not best kept, and it seems very, very not best kept, as your wheel of your carriage seems to hit something. There is the sound of splintering, and there is the horses that seem to bolt a little bit. You are all thrown around the carriage. The carriage comes to a halt, and you hear some shouting from the coachman. They are sort of locals to sort of Plymouth and have got a thick West Country accent. It is somewhat difficult to fully make them out. It is at that point you hear other voices as well.
Are there glass windows on the carriage?
I mean, there are windows. You've got kind of a heavy sort of drape that you can kind of pull aside.
Okay. I'll immediately pull the windows as the drapes as far apart as they'll go and wipe away any condensation and stare out as intently as I can.
The rain is coming down and it's difficult to make. It's now night time. Not particularly late, around about 8-9 o'clock in the evening. You should have easily made to your destination for 10 o'clock. You can feel the carriage being at an awkward angle. Something has happened to the wheel. What else is you can see shapes looming out of the rainfall and a number of voices. One of them becomes a little clearer. And over your valuables. We don't want to hurt anybody.
Magdalena will get out of the carriage and stand at her full height of 6'2", arms crossed.
And I get out the other side, and I just stand in the rain with my arms open, and I say, "How many valuables does it look like I've got on me?" And I've got my gun in my hand.
Wow, you've got your gun in your hand. One of them says, "That's a nice looking gun. We'll be taking that then."
I don't think so.
What of you, Professor Morgan?
He's probably going to be trying to go to his magic bag. Now, we've not done anything about the gear, have we?
No,
I don't know whether that
bit,
happens yet.
Little bit like Blades in the Dark. What you do is you can choose up to 3 things, but you do it during the adventure. So you can choose something at any time, up to 3 items basically during the adventure. Once you've chosen it, you can use that item over and over again. It's not like a one-shot thing.
I'm going to look like I'm trying to hide under the seat of the carriage.
Yeah.
But what he's actually doing is going to his laboratory equipment, and he is going to mix up something sleep-inducing.
Okay, very nice. Then we move to Dahlia.
Yeah, so how does it work with like occult things? Are there like...
You tell me what you want to do. I mean, yeah, it's subtle. There's no... I like to think of it more like Call of Cthulhu, in the fact that there is magic out there, but it is very difficult to do, and it is very dangerous. So even with a 4 and a 5, with that repercussion, with that consequence, it could be bad. So you're kind of looking at 6s to make something supernatural work without it affecting you. And it's not necessarily instantaneous, but you can certainly try anything you want, and the more flavor and cinematic and descriptive, the better.
Yeah. Well, I don't think she's going to want to get out and get involved in fighting. So it's trying to get a feel for, is there anything she could call upon here, I suppose? Are there any whispers in the wind?
Well, you're on that lovely place, Bodmin Moor, that
Well,
is full of all sorts of who knows what. The question is, can you contact them? Can you attune to them? Can you do something, which fundamentally would be an attune roll or a sense roll sort of thing, really.
Yeah. Okay.
So now that we've kind of established kind of actions, really, there's no initiative. It's not a combat based game, really, although your first encounter seems to be combat, so I guess it is a combat based game. They say, look, we don't want any trouble. Hand over your goods and head back to the lights. We don't like people coming up here.
If you didn't want trouble, you shouldn't have started it.
Okay.
And I'm going to just walk straight up to one of them and stare them in the eyes the whole time.
So yeah, they've got what seem to be like cudgels and farming equipment. These are not professionals in any way, shape, or form, but
they're not prepared for the Mildred staff.
Yeah, but there's a bit of a mob By a mob, I mean there's probably about 6 or 7 of them. So what we will do is, I suppose we'll kick it off with you, Mildred. This one here is, well, what are you going to do? Are you trying to intimidate him? Are you going to just shoot him, in the leg or in the face? Um, what are you going to do? They're going to try and beat you. They are going to try and take your things. But with this one that you are face to face with, what is your intention?
I'm going to say really loudly for all of them to hear through the driving rain. I've got nothing of any value on me, but this gun doesn't have enough bullets for all of you, but it can take down some of you. And I've already spent more than a quarter of a century of my life in jail for murder. So, do you actually want to go through with this thing that you have started? And
Okay.
before they can answer, I'm going to shoot the first one in the shoulder.
Okay, very nice. So I like that. I think outstanding little bit of role play there. So I'm going to give you a bonus dice with that because I don't know whether it's in the rules, but I can do that. But you have initiated combat. You are shooting a gun. So this will be, and the pre-gens don't really take in account gun combat. You are playing a criminal, so that is a slink. You have 1 in control, don't you?
Yes.
You're going to spend any drives. You've got a bonus dice in that because I did like your intimidation and role play.
I will spend a drive for sure. I will save some in case we keep shooting. So that'll be 3 dice.
Okay. Okay, 4 to 5. It is partial success. Well, success with a complication. So you shoot. It shoots him in the shoulder. He starts swearing and he's bleeding. But the complication is that you haven't put him off. He's still going to come at you. So with that, we move down to, do you know what you want to do, Dahlia, now, or do you want some more time to think about your spooky stuff? If you want more time, I can move to a different character and come
Go
back to
ahead. I think, yeah, so broadly, it's trying to reach out to the sort of spirits that might be lurking out in the moors, and if they can aid us in some way. They might not be specific, individual spirits, but if there's a body of spirits that can go swooping at the guys to distract them, harm them. So she's going to sit there. She's going to be looking at some runes and sort of whispering to herself, communicating, which, yes, it would be, I guess, a sense roll.
Yep.
I will push 2, if that's okay.
Yeah, so you're going to put 2 extra drives in there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that sounds very good.
So I think that's 4 total, then, isn't it?
Yep.
Yep. With one of those being.
Well, I mean, the good news is that you've got a partial success.
Yeah.
Now,
don't get my drive back. I'm not taking one.
yeah, there is a thing called resistance. You've got 2 of them in intuition, and that means that if you're unhappy with the result, you can use that resistance up completely and do a re-roll. You can re-roll all the dice that you did on that dice roll, but you can't re-roll any dice that were given to you. So it's up to you. 4 is a partial success,
Yeah.
but with repercussions.
I'll tweet before, that's fine.
Okay, very good. So you reach out, and this is the first time that you've really tried to sort of focus here. You haven't been really in a position to do this. You're kind of partially sort of tilted in this thing. There are these thugs all around you. You reach out and you do indeed sense something. There is a terrifying howl that echoes across the moors. We're not sure what you have touched or sensed, but it is terrifying. Then we move to you, and the howl kind of, you see, it almost paralyzes all of these thugs as they all start looking wildly around. They very much seem to recognize this, and it's certainly not one of their friends. Professor Morgan.
So, Professor Morgan is going to concoct this sleep draft, or sleep crystals, or something that he can put into a handkerchief.
Yep.
So, you know, both kind of pairs of glasses go on, and there he is, concocting away. And then what he wants to do is try and go outside.
Yep.
And he's going to use sway, and kind of go out a different way. I'll give you what I have. I've got these. I'm a man of science. I have these rare crystals. Look at them. Take them. Sniff them. So I'm going to try and use sway, and I want to try and sway them.
It sounds perfect.
To convince them to take this, and so I'm going to have a big old deep breath.
Yeah. I mean, if you work, they think these are going to be good drugs from the smoke from the city.
Yeah.
Got to be.
So I'll give you a drive.
Oh, thank you. I was going to use a drive as well, so that's 4.
Yeah, perfect. A lovely way of using.
I'm going to use a resistance there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm going to re-roll 3 of them.
Yeah. Kristian, your luck is legendary, absolutely legendary.
Oh, I'm back, baby. I'm back.
Okay, a failure. They sort of look at it, and as you try and hand it across to them, and they seem to be interested. Obviously, there is this massive howl that sort of happens, and it causes one of them to completely freak out, and he kind of looks up. And as he looks up, the crystals sort of are knocked up out of your hand. It's tipping down with rain, and it begins to kind of dissolve into the rain and just shower down on everyone. As you are not holding the instrument of your thing. The good news is they seem to be semi-scared of this howl. There is a gunshot that has just gone off, and of course, Magdalena, I'm very much looking forward to seeing all of this happening simultaneously. Magdalena, what are you trying to do?
I take it that the mob is standing some distance away from Magdalena on her side of the coach.
Yeah, if that's favourable to you for the moment.
Yeah. She stands there, and slowly they will start noticing a trickle of blood down one nostril, 2 trickles of blood down her eyes and her ears, and all of a sudden, if it works, she'll be not there where she was. She will be standing right behind them and whispering, "You truly do not want to mess with me." And she will use her magician's ability to attempt a teleport using actual magic.
actual magic. Magic is terribly dangerous. The one thing you don't want to do is fail this.
No, I'm going to use it's a sense roll, and if I succeed, I will actually take bleed damage.
Yes.
So I'm going to use 4 dice. I'm using 2 drive and the 2 that I have in it. So it's 4 regular dice.
Perfect.
Let's hope I don't do a Kristian. I don't. It's a 6.
You have a 6 there. But you were right, because in this game, sometimes successes are just as bad as that. So you will take a bleed roll on a success. And yeah, I mean, it's strange. Anybody that witnesses this, maybe kind of a trick of the light, maybe the rain, maybe the chemicals that are in the air, or the howl. But for one moment that you are there, the next moment you are behind them, and combined with everything that you have done, the gunshot, the attuning or contacting whatever is out there, to the throwing the drugs in the air, to the teleportation, it causes these to flee. They are not wanting it. This is not what they anticipated. You see their cudgels and their sort of farming equipment sort of just disappear into the night, unless any of you want to give chase.
No.
I'm going to scream out, Miss Mildred Andrews did this to you.
Okay, it kind of is sort of follows them away as they disappear. You can see the moorland is fairly flat, but the rain is sort of coming down. The coachman say, and then as he's trying to speak, there is another howl that is getting closer. I don't know what that is, but we're about 4 miles away. It's going to take some time to. Do you want to stay dry in the carriage while we try and repair this, or do you want to go on foot? It's less than an hour's walk. We could be 2-3 hours fixing this, if not longer.
Mildred's already started walking.
It looks like we've decided to
I
walk.
suppose we shall depart.
Magdalena
I-
gets out a reddish brown handkerchief made of silk and dabs the blood away from her face and gets her raincoat and starts walking as well after the other 3.
You don't have to follow. I'm fine on my own. It's easier here than where I used to be. And I just went the gunshot. I mean, you guys were fabulous. You stay in the carriage if you want to. I'll meet you there.
Oh, no. On a night like this, we should all stay together and try and get there together. It'll be better for all of us, and I wouldn't feel right letting everyone go off on their own on a night like this with those howls. Does anyone know what kind of beast that is? Oh,
It answered
is that
before,
is that a
but
wolf?
I do not know what it is.
It kind of sounds wolf-like, and Magdalena, with your research, one of the things that you kind of mentioned in passing, because you don't really truly believe in these things, as you said yourself, was the rumours of the beast of Bodmin. No one truly knows what the beast is. Could be some just wild remnant from times long past. No one's truly seen it, certainly been heard, and certainly sort of livestock have vanished. But that howl is no myth, that howl is real. It is night and the moon is almost full too. It is giving you a degree of light, even though the rain is coming down. passing between the clouds. The coachman hands you a lantern from the coach. You might need this. We'll try and get to you as fast as we can.
As the tallest person, Magdalena will take the lantern and hold it up as high as she can to give it a widest circle of light as possible.
Okay. They say there is only one road. Just follow this. You'll see the lights of the inn shortly, hopefully. You set off and surrounded by the halo of your own light, you soon see the light of the carriage disappear. The howls continue.
Does the howl follow us, or does it seems to be moving towards the carriage?
Well, let us see. Dahlia, give me another sense roll. You can give me give me a sense roll. This is not critical. 5, that's okay. You reach out again, kind of maybe curious yourself or acting on Magdalena's words, and you just open your mind again for a moment, and this thing is hunting you. But you get your answers. It hasn't found you yet, as you hear shots, a shotgun go off in the direction of the carriage, followed by some horrible blood-curdling screams. You've managed to put a fair distance between you and the carriage. You are certainly much closer to the inn than you are to the carriage. But you don't think you're going to see those coachmen.
I think it will attempt to follow us next. We should probably keep moving.
Well, I must say it sounds an awful lot like a rather disturbed young man that I spent quite a few years in a corridor with.
Barking.
I had really hoped never to hear that type of sound again.
I don't believe it's human.
Yeah, it's kind of strange. It doesn't sound like any natural beast. It's most definitely howling, but yeah, there is something real strange with it. I mean, the stories of werewolves are few and far between, but working for the Candela Obscura, things seem to be kind of pointing in that direction. The moon, the beast, maybe a little too convenient. You are aware of certain sort of Cornish myths, as I said, the portals into fairy, such entities lived there.
He was always put in solitary confinement at the full moon. I don't know if that was a convenient thing or he cultivated, but wow, sure was very similar sound. And I keep trying to tell people what the guards and the wardens and the people in power in these places, what they let the inmates and the guards get up to, but nobody listens to me. Nobody listens to me.
My dear Mildred, it's a foolish prison, perhaps, that keeps a lycanthrope inside, but it's not impossible. Whatever this beast is, it's something suddenly dangerous while the moon is out.
Well, I don't suppose it's any surprise to any of you that there's a bit of of the bleed in my story about why I was in prison for so long. I didn't do it. I didn't do it. I mean, I did it, but it wasn't me. It was this force. And I really believe other people, so many other people, do things because of this force. And it's not their fault. It isn't their fault. And something has to be done. And if this is going to make things worse, Professor Morgan, we have to do something. You have to find something out.
Magdalena has been listening to the Howls and as being a experienced performer, she will try to howl as the beast, but with as much commanding force in it as possible, as like, don't come near us.
Okay, interesting. A sway roll,
Yep.
I believe.
And I will use one drive for that, so I'll roll 3 dice.
Yep.
And one of them will be gilded.
I can give you one if you like.
Yeah, so 4.
Interesting.
I don't want the complication to be I'm in heat.
I'm taking the gilded die, the 5.
Very good. And there is a complication. So you kind of let out this terrible howl, and it's not possible to get it 100% correct. Your vocal cords are just not built that way, but you do the very best job that you could possibly do. It howls again, but it seems to answer your call rather than ignore it. Of course, you have no idea what that means, but for the moment, your intentions was to tell it not to come any closer or warn it off, and that is what you have managed to do. You have brought yourselves a small window of time, perhaps, to at least get to safety. If anything could be safe, anywhere could be safe from this creature.
She will say, if this truly is a son of Fenrir, we need to move towards something with sturdy walls.
Hopefully this inn will be one such building.
Yes. Let's head with all speed to the Jamaica Inn.
So you head off, and for the moment, Dahlia, you don't sense any more that it is hunting you. You arrive shortly after seeing the lights of the inn. It's now perhaps 10 o'clock at night, maybe coming for past. It's a foreboding grey stone building, cobbled outer yard, coaching house and stables, tack room in a kind of L-shaped fashion. The sign Jamaica Inn has a lantern next to it, sort of lighting up, and it is moving in the rain and the wind, ominously creaking. There are lights in the inn though, the door though firmly closed. As you push the door open, well, the inn goes quiet and all eyes turn to the doors as if they are perhaps expecting a visit from the devil himself. For a moment they all look at you and then they go back to their conversations. The innkeeper, quite obvious, standing behind the bar. Never heard your coach arrive. I'll send someone else to tend to the horses.
Don't bother.
No,
The
there's some
coach did
trouble on
not
the
arrive,
road.
and I don't believe that it will.
Well, come in, you're soaked. I'm assuming you are another party from London town.
That's
That
correct.
is
Yes.
indeed correct, yes.
Right.
Another party. Are there others from London here?
Yeah, you've got the final few rooms. Gee, I thought you were here for the same thing.
I imagine we
Thing.
are.
Thing.
The big exciting event, Mildred, that's happening here. I assume that's what the others are here for.
Well, there's the professor man. He's I mean, he's gonna go to the. I don't believe the words I'm saying. Still, he's doing something up on Brown Willie. He's obviously not here. He's obviously not there at the moment. Terrible weather.
Where is he?
He's up in his room. He's
Now,
got
does he stay here as well?
well.
What room?
Well, that is. I can't possibly tell you. I mean,
Why not?
Uh,
We're here for him.
Would you obviously you can't tell us which room he's in. But would you be so kind as to pass the message on to the professor? I am Professor Morgan.
yeah, of course.
From one of the prestigious London universities.
I hope you've got nothing wrong with you. You're not going to be spreading some kind of that. There's all sorts of diseases in the city, isn't there?
She has just soot and rain, and 25 years in.
You probably have got black snot, just generally from the city.
That's good. Get it all out.
Everybody does.
Yeah, she was in. I'll lean in close and say, she was in the Navy for a while. You know how it is.
As Professor Morgan is distracting the innkeeper,
Yeah,
usually there is a ledger book on the bar for people to sign their names in.
Yeah.
I'd like to see if I can make out the guest list and if there's any rooms assigned to them.
Yeah. This is going to be a challenge, so you're going to have to give me a role to do it with, either out being noticed or whatever. I'm going to, I mean, mechanically, the professor should give you a drive to increase it, but I'm going to be generous and say you can have one bonus dice anyway from me because professor is doing a sterling job, but anybody else can add to that still.
I think I will add that extra one. Which one was it? Sway? You said you're going to do?
No, this will be sleight of hand, basically.
Yeah.
And since I'm distracting him by coughing snot and dripping everywhere and acting really strangely, can that be another distract?
Well, you can. I've gave him a bonus dice because of what everybody is doing. If you.
Oh, so that's one for everyone. Okay.
No. I've gave Magdalena a bonus dice for this roll, free.
Okay.
If you've got drives in cunning, you can offer an additional one, should you wish to. Professor, you wanted to do that? Have you got something in cunning? So
yeah, I've got a 3 drive. I've used one so far, so I'm going to give another drive.
Okay.
So that's 5 in total, and one of them will be gilded.
Perfect.
I'm taking the 4.
Okay, it is the gilded dice, so there is a degree of complication there, but it is a success. You do notice that there are 6 people that have booked in previously. There is Clarence Affinity. There is Luther Donegal, Angeline Anderson, Professor Socrates Sterling, Ned Ellis, and Sally Blakely. They seem to have all arrived more or less at the same time, which is perhaps a week ago. This matches up with the periodicals and the story of the launch going ahead. You've also noticed that there's been a lot of deliveries that have happened here, so carriages and carts bringing various equipment that has possibly been transferred up to Brown Willie.
Magdalena?
Yeah.
What do you remember? What night was this launch supposed to be? I can't remember. It's just gone out of my head.
I'm not sure. Does it say on the newspaper?
I don't think you've uncovered that information as yet. There was no specific launch date.
Oh, okay. So we're not under real time pressure. I was thinking I might slip out and do a little investigating where I'm used to being, like outside and in the muck. Because if everyone else's horses maybe got waylaid, then maybe there's no horses. But if there's horses, then maybe we can escape if we have to. So maybe I'll sneak out.
The innkeeper is just looking now at Mildred. She's got a room. There are horses, but she's not going to steal the horse. That's a crime.
I am very well versed in crime. Thank you. I think I could probably get a license to practice law at this point, even though I'm a woman. I bet I could.
She took a lot of salt water in the Navy.
Well, I hope you are keeping them contained.
Look, my good man, I'll kind of take him sort of by the shoulder and lead him away from Mildred. I would very much like to have a chat with the professor. As I said, I'm a man of learning myself. Happy to show you my credentials, and I get a very soggy card out of the pocket and just put it back again. I'm happy to tell the professor my credentials. He is sure to have heard of at least my institution. It would be very nice to just have a chat with him down in the bar. So if you could at least send a message to him, I would be very grateful. Very, very grateful.
Get yourself dried up, get yourself warmed. Kind of shouts a few of the locals to move out of the way of the table by the fire, and I'll send a message up to him.
Oh, you are too kind. You are too kind. And well, we may go in and out and see if there's anything, if our horses are on the way. All of my stuff is still, unfortunately, in the carriage. I don't even have a decent frock coat.
What happened?
Oh, just waylaid by some highwaymen.
We broke a wheel.
There's no highwaymen around here. Not that I'm just disbelieving you, but there's been none of that in many years. Okay.
Well, one of them now will have a bullet wound to the shoulder, so they will be identifiable, certainly. But it's not professional.
Okay.
But I do fear our coachman may have come to some harm. Though, Professor, the carriage itself may well be recoverable.
Yes, indeed. Well, let us get dried off, and then we can maybe talk to the professor and enjoy some of your delicious victuals.
We'll get some arranged for you immediately. And he goes off to try and organise some food and this message going up to the professor. So looking around here, it is mainly locals, and they're kind of speaking in a heavy accented dialect. This is almost like the equivalent of Cockney rhyming slang, but the Cornish version. It's almost as if they don't want you to understand what they are talking about. There is a number of eyes that are upon you, though, and when you look at them, they sort of look away. You don't get particularly a good feeling about being in here, although the innkeeper seems to be friendly enough. And well, he basically says the professor is just making sure he's wearing the right attire and will be down to meet with you shortly.
Mildred would like to sneak outside and just count how many horses there are and
Okay,
see if she can guess how long they've been there. If they've been there for a week, or if they're fresher, just returned from galloping back from something.
right. No, the horses that are stabled, and there's only two of them, are not sweating. They've been there for a good number of hours and certainly weren't used for anything in recent times. Beyond that, there is no other horses. There is a carriage as well that is underneath a sort of open-sided barn to keep it relatively dry.
So one of the parties presumably came by carriage, and the other party either didn't, or their carriage is coming back later, or they're in the same predicament we're in. Something
Yeah,
like that.
well, there's a whole host, but you understand that to have a rocket to go to the moon, one does not arrive just simply in a carriage. There would have been wagons and crates and all sorts of things that would have had to arrive and have probably been sent back over the week. And then they would have probably had to be manhandled 4 miles across the moor to the launch site. So a fairly big endeavour. And yeah, you think it's transient. Who knows whether there's going to be more equipment and gear arriving over the next few days.
Okay, I'll come in and try and dry myself off again and convey all this information.
Okay, as after doing that investigation, it takes a certain amount of time. You see the professor come downstairs. You recognise him from his photograph in the paper. He's mid-40s, got quite a serious face upon him. Thin but not gaunt. Um, he's got definite bags underneath his eyes. Not been sleeping uh, particularly well, but he's nicely attired, and you see kind of behind him a very large individual standing another sort of 6'2", probably the same height as Magdalena, but he is bulky as well, dressed in what would be a manservant's sort of outfit. The professor sort of looks across at the barkeeper. The barkeeper points at all of you, and he sort of makes his way towards you. He looks, if you were going to cast him, like Peter Cushing. He gives you a smile, sort of looks down over the glasses that are perched upon his nose and says, Professor Morgan. And he doesn't presume, he kind of looks across the table. He perhaps doesn't look too long at Mildred, figuring that that might not be Professor Morgan. But he kind of addresses the table as a whole.
Uh, I'm Professor Morgan. Professor Sterling.
Indeed, he offers a hand, and you see he's wearing a very nice purple and green smoking jacket. Indeed,
But,
you are here, one assumes, because you are interested in my endeavour.
oh, of course. I mean, we heard about your launch, and I knew I had to be on the next train from London, heading down to this charming place. I'm a man of science like you. I'm a man of learning. I'm interested in chemicals mostly. I would love to discuss with you, if you, of course, are willing to talk about these things, just how you're going to get the rocket off the ground.
Well, perhaps some port as a little nightcap, and I'm more than happy to. There's no great secret in what I'm doing. I shall publish many papers upon it. It is, though, a little extraordinary. Um, but let us drink, and a number of glasses, port for everybody. He kind of looks at his manservant, says, Ned, be a good fellow and make this happen. And he pulls up a chair. You notice that the atmosphere changes somewhat in the inn. It was chilly when you were here and arrived, but it's possibly gone icy now that the professor has come downstairs.
Forgive my manners. This is Dahlia, Magdalena, and Mildred. Mildred.
He's a perfect gentleman and greets you in an absolutely appropriate way. Associates of the professor, students perhaps?
But we are all students.
We do not study with the professor, but we travel with him in related circles, and certainly all interested in what you're going to be doing, Professor.
Well, it
Absolutely.
is indeed. Well, uh, many of my skeptics and a certain of my peers from my club have said it is an impossibility. So much so that quite a large wager has been set. But I do not believe it is impossible. I have had my failings, but this is why they are called experiments rather than certainties. And with each failure, we learn more. But this, I am convinced, will be successful. We are going to shoot for the moon, and we are not going to miss.
Mildred is sitting in a corner and has reverted to her initial sort of sitting in the shadows. But when she speaks to the professor, she sort of reverts to this middle class, sensible way of presenting herself. And the only sort of oddity is that she's staring very, very unblinkingly into his eyes and says, "Truly, nothing is impossible."
Indeed, milady, indeed. I would like to think that. So the port is brought around. The bottle, in fact, has been purchased, and Ned pours it out for you quite skillfully. Anybody that has any kind of awareness, you do notice that his hands are quite rough for a butler, and maybe he's been doing much of the manhandling of the crates as well. But he stands a distance away, and he turns his back on your table, in effect, and he's kind of watching the locals more than anything else. The
You
professor.
mentioned. Oh,
Sorry.
sorry.
Yeah, no, go.
I was going to say you mentioned that you had some extra help with this launch. You seem to know it is going to be a certainty, and as you said, that's a rare thing in our profession.
Well, it
So
needs to be, otherwise it's going to finish me completely. So we need it to succeed. but fortune does indeed favour the bold, as I'm sure we're all aware.
But come on, come now. You've not asked the pixies to help you, have you?
No. Although there seems to be some undue suspicions around here. As far as I can understand it, the locals, many of them still are entrenched with their old ways. They see the moon as the Earth Mother. I mean, not the Earth Mother, but as the feminine aspect, the Earth being the male and the moon being the female goddess. And for some reason, they sort of think that my rather large rocket is going to penetrate her and cause her harm. And well,
My goodness, Professor.
well, it is certainly not my intention, and from everything that I know, I do not believe that the moon is either a goddess or a woman. So, but hence their perhaps cold shouldering of me. In fact, I've had one or two of them looking around the launch site, and well, Ned here has had to kind of warn them off.
Can you think of any other reason they would be so negative towards you?
Well, not at all. I would say superstitious locals, but maybe they have their beliefs as we have ours, and I do, to a degree, respect their beliefs, but I have ensured them I wish no harm to either their goddess or anything else. So
Can I make a read roll to spot lies and gather motive
yes,
to see
absolutely.
if he's lying and what else it would be? So I've got one which is gilded, and I can give myself a drive. Anyone else have any drives going begging?
Yeah, you can have one of mine for cunning.
So the
Thank
way
you.
this kind of works is you're all thinking the same sort of thing of kind of trying to establish his motives, which is why you can kind of give drives to another player, even though you wouldn't actively necessarily be helping them at this moment. It kind of acts as a group role of kind of trying to gauge his intentions. Oh, a 6 on the gilded dice, which is good. So you read a number of things into him. He hasn't deliberately come here to wind up the locals, and you certainly get the impression that he does not believe that the moon is a goddess and is going to cause any kind of harm at all to it. So his intentions are very much what he has announced, which is he's planning a mission to the moon upon this rocket. He's also mentioned that he will be a broken man, ruined if he loses this bet. So there is a degree of drive to ensure that it is definitely going to happen. But you get the impression that he really needs this to happen if it's not going to finish him financially and probably professionally as well.
Magdalena will ask, are there any...
Sorry, one at a time.
Can I just
yeah, go ahead.
ask a question, a clarification? Sorry.
Yep.
Did Professor Morgan did I hear correctly that you asked the professor, oh, come on, you didn't ask the pixies to help you? So
Yeah.
was there a lie in trying to get any?
No, he's certainly not dabbled into the folklore of this place to help him.
Okay, but that doesn't rule out that he did some other kind of heebie-jeebie stuff.
Well, you've not reached that yet,
Okay.
and he's probably going to come to that.
Okay.
Because I think the professor's going to question him about the science of it in a minute.
Great.
Magdalena.
Sorry, Natascha. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just wanted to
it's
clarify that.
fine. It happens in online games all the time. But even with my skills as a GM, I can't answer multiple people at the same time. So, Magdalena, you were about to say.
Who would benefit the most financially if the rocket launch would fail?
So
among the people here.
Yeah, you've read about the wager. It was quite noticeable. In fact, it was as big as the old Phileas Fogg journey around the world in 80 days kind of level of wager. It kind of rocked London society. So you are aware that a couple of those names that you saw in the book, one particular, Luther Donahue, Lord Luther Donahue, in fact, is the one that has made the wager against him. And they seek to lose their fortune as well. And quite possibly even more so the loss of wealth. You believe that whoever fails in this will be forced to resign their membership of their smoking club. Terrible disgrace. So,
So have you taken any precautions into someone deliberately sabotaging your rocket ship now that it's erect on the moor?
It is there, kind of more or less ready to go. Only a few more nights now to the height of the full moon. It gives me a better target, doesn't it, when it's all there, glowing.
Do you feel that's a little provocative?
What do you mean? I need to see what I'm aiming at.
The locals being so inflamed already.
Well, it is the locals, but I have Ned here. We go up every day and look at it. Let's face it, it's not going to be particularly a mystery, is it? If it gets damaged, I think we know who we can blame. And I've made it quite clear, if they stop me this time, in a month's time when the moon is full again, we will continue. So the wager isn't tied to a degree of time, as long as the endeavour still continues. And if there is a degree of sabotage, then it is not my fault. We will repair the sabotage and we will continue. So, and he kind of raises his voice at this time. They will, if they know what's best for them and they don't want the full weight of the law to come down here, they will leave things they do not understand alone. What?
Magdalena appears to be a bit taken aback when he starts raising his voice to the entire room.
Yes.
He just leans back in her chair.
Yeah, that was definitely for the locals to realise that he's not going to be intimidated or put off by these country bumpkins.
And then she will add, I doubt anyone will go out tonight and start sabotaging because apparently some sort of wild howling beast is out on the moor.
Oh, it is kind of strange. Since we have arrived here, we've heard howls on the moor. I assume some. I don't know. I'm not particular familiar with this area, but I have been on safari, and believe me, you hear some strange noises out in the tropical jungles of Africa, or even the Amazon basin.
Are you saying
Some
there's a
strange-
lion out on Bodmin Moor?
Not at all. The howls we've heard is certainly no creature I have ever heard in the tropical jungles. Plus, it's far too cold. That is a ridiculous notion.
You can hear some interesting howls in London, where it's plenty cold and foggy.
Well, yes, I guess you can. I've got quite a nice residence though, so we don't hear much noise. In fact, I wake up to the birds tweeting in the park. But London is a big place.
Indeed, it must be nice.
So, Professor, you were saying you were interested in the actual physics
Yes.
of all of this. Well,
Yes,
this is
please, do
intriguing
tell.
because the wager is to get to the moon, but not exactly how we get there. And I have travelled far and studied much, not just the sciences, the humanities, and many mysteries as well. And during my time, I've seen many things. Can you believe I saw a mystic in India translocate themselves from one location to another location? Smoke and mirrors, you might say. Impossible, you might say. Nay, I say, I believe they did it, and that is precisely what I am attempting to use here for a degree of occult study or mysticism, and I plan to launch my great rocket towards the moon, and just after launch we will fold space and time and open up a portal of sorts, to put it in layman's terms, that the rocket will penetrate through. But upon the other side, as if no space or time existed, will indeed mean the location, the destination of the journey.
And have you no idea of the potential consequences of this? The dangers? Not to you, but to us.
Well, of course, there is always dangers, but they are minimal according to my calculations.
Magdalena leans forward, knowing very well what he's about to do and how it works, since she does the exact actual magic, which he demonstrated tonight already. And she leans forward towards him and says, "Where are you going to get the innocents, the victims, for doing your magic trick? Because I know how it works. It takes from you. And if you want to have something that big go that far using that trick, you will need a lot of innocents and victims to power that."
Hogwash, total hogwash. I mean, that is the way that perhaps you do your parlour tricks or whatever, but this is a combination of that mysticism and of science as well. Surely you'll back me up here, Professor. The blending of both together, the best of both worlds. That is perhaps why your parlor trick does not function in the same way as this rocket.
I have a question for you, Professor. Where did you learn to do this?
Upon my travels and explorations, a little bit of knowledge here and there. I have spent much time studying, and I take no offence at certain members of your skepticism, and I would cordially invite you up to the launch site tomorrow so that you can ensure that the things that I do are perhaps not as horrific as you could possibly imagine.
Yes. Yes,
I'd certainly be interested to learn about the spiritual aspect of your work and how that is combined with the more scientific element.
Yes, let's. It's been a great interest to talk to you, Professor. I would like to see your rocket tomorrow, if that's all right.
My rocket is ready to be examined by anybody. It is already erect and ready for launch.
Very good. Exactly as it should be.
And
Well-
your launch is planned for when?
3 nights' time. The height of the full moon doesn't necessarily need to be, but from my calculations, it is most optimal then.
And have you noticed any side effects from your ritual work?
It is, see, you say ritual, I say equation, and they are very closely related. They are indeed very close. But I'm not trying to offend you there. But no, as far as I'm aware, everything is working to plan. Absolutely, and I can't wait for those others. He kind of indicates to sort of upstairs. When I have proved to them, I bring back a piece of the moon rock to demonstrate I have travelled to the moon and back.
Have you tested this procedure with another rocket already?
Oh no, no time for testing. The time for experimentation has gone. Wager has been set, and we launch in 3 days. It's exciting, is it not?
Professor, how will they know it's a moon rock?
Because it will be from the moon.
How will they know?
Because I will be telling them it is from the moon.
How will they trust you?
Well, we're members of the same club.
But they are wagering against you.
Yes, that does not matter, does it? One takes one's club member's word as given. I mean, it is unthinkable otherwise, is it not?
Interesting.
And if one was, by God forbid, caught lying to another club member, they would equally lie in ruination. This is one of the tenets of the club's membership. Surely you should know this, Professor. I'm guessing you're not a member of my club in particular, but it has been very interesting speaking with you, and perhaps if you are interested at some point, introductions could be made.
Oh, that sounds absolutely smashing. I think I would quite enjoy that. Yes.
Well, I have an early start, as you can imagine. There is no simple way up there. It is a walk. You are welcome to travel with me at first light or make your way up there. It is a well-known spot, is Brown Willie.
Thank you very much. We shall reconvene on the morrow.
And with that, he stands up and heads off upstairs, and Ned glowers at all the locals and follows him upstairs. And you are... Yeah.
Can I try to follow them?
Wow, it's a small inn, so following them is not the difficult part,
The
especially as
room is, and then
Magdalena.
once they're in it.
I think I already know the room numbers that they're in.
Oh, sorry, I missed that part.
Yeah. So.
So then, so my friend who works for this local landowner, do we want to talk to her before we go, or after, or?
We want to go out at night, where this thing is howling around that we barely escape from, and that probably ate your coachman.
No. We could go day after tomorrow, or tomorrow afternoon.
That sounds better. And Magdalena leads towards Professor Morgan and says, this rocket of his, it's extremely dangerous if it taps into the same energy that I use for my teleportation.
It sounds very, very ill-advised. I mean,
He's not even tested it on smaller models. He doesn't know how it works.
And is there any real combination of the spiritual and the scientific, or is it that the rocket will merely happen as usual, and then the spiritual aspect is what will actually power it? Is there even a combination? Not that makes it less dangerous, but I'm not sure how those two elements do combine or not.
It's not something I'd like to find out too much about, unfortunately. Fortunately, I think we should try and stop him ahead of him doing his launch, but we need... I'd like to say he's a man of reason, and deep down I'm sure he is. But
well, he doesn't believe me.
Money's on the line.
Swayed from this, yes. His club reputation, his scientific reputation. I don't think he would see a need to fall away from it without something cataclysmic happening.
He also has a very clear idea of how the rocket will punch through to the moon, but not a very good idea how he'll get back to the rocket and return the rocket in one piece without shattering.
I presume it'll be through similar methods, using combination of the spiritual and, to come back.
Well,
and
the physical seemed to be the part where he got from the ground to high up in the air, and high up in the air back to the ground isn't quite the same thing, as far as I know.
Unless he can go from the moon to here quickly. Now, that would be very dangerous indeed. I mean,
I think if we go to this site, we should try and get a feel for what kind of energies are being used, whether it is
purely chemical
or blood, or purely chemical in some way.
Yes, I think that's a good idea, and we can talk to your friend tomorrow as well.
Excellent. Yes.
Okay. So the locals warm up again a little bit when he's gone, but they now possibly count you as their associates, as in the professor's associates. So they're eyeing you with perhaps even more suspicion. After about half an hour, and you are just beginning to sort of dry out now from that terrible walk, the door sort of opens up and 3 individuals walk in, and it is fairly obvious that one of them has got a bad shoulder wound. You kind of recognise their face, Mildred, as you was right up into it, and they are probably going to recognise yours as you sort of make yourself look nondescript. Very nice.
And you did shout your
Yeah.
name at them, Sailor.
Magdalena does the exact opposite. She actually stands up and says, "Oh, you were the guys that tried to rob our coach."
The innkeeper says, "Well, are you sure about that, miss?" This is the innkeeper.
Oh, definitely. I was standing right next to them, and she points to one guy. I whispered in his ear and told him to go away, and he did.
Understandably so, I think, Magdalena.
The beast is on the moor, they say to the innkeeper. It's not safe out there. I think they brought it down upon us. One of them's a witch or worse.
Perhaps it was your ill deeds.
We don't have anything to do with the beast. It's nothing to do with
Oh.
you.
No, just with the breaking of the wheel of our carriage.
With any
No.
beast.
Look, this is our place. This is the one that's been shot, not the innkeeper, just to clarify. This is our land. This is where we live. The beast has been around forever. But we hear it maybe once or twice a year. Some livestock goes missing. That's it. Since you's lot has got here, it's been every night. You
Perhaps
were
it's not
disturbing
said
it.
about what's going on with the rocket.
Well, it's all
Do
your
you know
business.
anything about that?
Yeah, we know that he's disturbing things. He's gonna try and deflower the goddess.
Well, we're
Magdalena,
interested in... Sorry.
We were just
Magdalena says, "Trust me, we are trying to stop him as well. We know that what he's doing with the rocket, it might not be what you're saying is wrong, but definitely the way it works is completely wrong. And if we don't do anything to stop him, really bad things will start happening in this area, and we don't want that."
well, sort your own house out then. Our apologies. All we're trying to do is scare you off and maybe make it look like a robbery. If you are here to stop it, then go about your business and we won't interfere with you. But all I know is since all of you out of towners have arrived, something has disturbed the beast.
It seemed it was already very active before our group arrived, so it's not our fault.
Well, you're all the same, city folk. If you want to prove me wrong, then do it. But the beast has never, generations upon generations, been like this. Something has riled it. It's not happy. So we'll
We
give you
will
a
try and
chance.
stop him. Yeah.
We'll give you a chance to prove your word. But believe
Have
me,
you seen him bringing any particular materials that could be not chemicals, but related to more spiritual, the moon goddess, or ritual components, that sort of thing?
no. We want shut of it. The beast don't care whether it's local or not, what it feeds upon. It will quite happily rip us apart as it would you. I mean, it doesn't trouble us normally. Anyway, I think If we are to trust you, we'll let you try and do what you have promised us. And we'll leave you well alone. Can't say the same of the beast, though. And with that, they say, "Can we stay in the stables? Because we don't want to go across the moors, not with it about." The innkeeper looks at all of you and says, "Everybody good here? If you tell me that these assaulted you, then I'm a lawful man."
No, I think it's probably okay. But you may wish to at least give him some sort of spirit because he's got a gunshot wound.
Right. Just the one then, and stables tonight. It kind of takes the shot down, kind of nods at you, certainly, Professor, for thinking of that, and the three of them head outside. With everything that you've said, the demeanour in the inn seems to warm somewhat more. But promises have been made now. You can head up to your rooms or chat quietly amongst yourselves about what you plan to do next. If you don't plan anything to do next and you want to move the time on to the following day, we can do that. It's up to you.
I think we'll move time on.
Yep.
Yep.
Going to be hiding from the beast overnight, I think, so.
Yeah, unfortunately, Magdalena managed to partially put it off your scent for now, but it seems to be a big problem. So the following day, are you planning to rise at first light and go with the professor, or let them take off first and then follow them later?
I think for perception, it would be a good idea to follow later.
Okay. So as you get up, go downstairs, most of the locals are not here now. They didn't sleep here overnight. Or maybe they did and have left early at first light to go about their business, because again, worried about the beast. Certainly the professor and his entourage have disappeared, headed out as they said at first light, but there are three individuals here that are most definitely the others. They're sitting around eating a hearty breakfast, kind of dressed. They don't look like they're dressed in finery, but they don't look like they're going out. They haven't got outer clothes on yet for the harsh weather of the moors. Two gentlemen, quite old, and a thin, almost waif-like woman, long black hair, a pale complexion. So they kind of nod and smile at you, but don't particularly invite you across. Did you want to spend any time with them, or are you going to head off after the professor?
Do I get the feeling any of them are occult aligned?
Can you give me a
It's not really
focus roll, please?
Focus.
Again, people can donate up to one should you wish to.
Yeah, I think I will. I'll donate one.
Okay. That gives me 3 then, so that's not too bad.
Yeah, you can use your own intuitions as drives from your intuition to pump it up.
I don't have any more to donate, sorry.
No, that's fine. Intuition's my best one, so it's...
Okay.
Okay. So that will be 4. Okay, well, I'll take the focus one.
Yeah, perfect. The gilded dice. 5, yes. The complication obviously being they notice that you notice that they notice. So absolutely, the woman
She's
is
fair me.
yes, without a doubt. But you notice something else. The nice sort of necklace that she's got around her neck bears the iconography of the moon goddess, the feminine aspect, and there's kind of moonstones in there. Absolutely, she he's got all of the regalia of an occultist and looks like one as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you can obviously mention that to your companion should you wish to.
Yeah, when we're like out of earshot, obviously.
Yeah. So you get that information.
Of course, if she follows the moon goddess, then either she hopes to benefit the moon goddess in some way by going along with the rocket plans, or she wishes to disrupt his plans. Potentially, she hopes to bring something through. Certainly, the locals obviously are against the rocket. They believe the moon would be harmed, but it's possible that
Professor Morgan
is not of the same thought.
What do you make? I know as a man of science you would not take the side of there being a moon goddess, but well, had I not spent time in less salubrious circumstances, I would never mention such a thing in front of you. But a rocket penetrating the moon goddess, surely this is nonsense. Surely they can't believe this.
Well, they can believe it. Yes.
Are there people of learning on that team? Do we know?
Well, I imagine they, Lord Luther Donahue, if he's a member of the same club and society, maybe a man of learning of some description or a gentleman of sorts.
The thing is, Mildred, there can be both the physical and the non-physical. A physical rocket certainly is likely to only go to the physical planetary orb in the sky, but its force of doing so through some kind of occult power might create some kind of tear in the metaphysical barrier that we have and bring forth some kind of being, some kind of that may be associated with our moon in some spiritual aspect.
And do you then think that this spiritual aspect would be a maternal one or a female one?
It's difficult to say. Spirits and things not of our plane can be not always aligned in even that way. It could be something wholly monstrous that is considered by followers to be a feminine being, or it may consider itself maternal in some way that may or may not align with our own considerations of that.
I think it's not so much important as what is actually true than what she believes is true to guide her actions.
Possibly. That possibly might influence what happens, but equally it might merely shape the whole and something could come through regardless. But either way, the portents were fairly dire. That it would be bad, certainly.
Do you know if there's an astral body that would send forth a very menacing, very highly masculine aspect?
Well, if you're speaking about myths, I suppose Mars is the god of war, but equally feminine could be considered equally menacing in a way. And I think this ritual seems to be fairly aligned towards the moon.
Professor, you were going to say?
I was going to say that I mean, from previous investigations, the Earth itself is a masculine aspect. From the information that Magdalena had found out earlier, the Earth is considered the masculine aspect.
Well, then, Professor, a thought. If you would indulge me, Cornwall mining deep into the masculine Earth, rocket masculine to the feminine moon. Might this be a way of tearing open an even deeper rift, an even stronger connection that would rip open even greater connections to the bleed?
Magdalena fiercely shakes her head and says, "What I feel when I teleport is just utter chaos. There is no feminine or masculine to it. It's just utter chaos what I travel through when I teleport. So if this rocket goes ahead and tears through the same dimension or other plane that my body goes through for that infinitesimally small amount of time that I'm in there, just imagine that big rocket over that longer distance. It would be there for far and far longer, and it would just open the world to chaos, utter chaos. There's no, I don't think, I think their aim is to protect the feminine in their spirituality, but I don't think the rocket or anything has to do with something specific coming through that is masculine or feminine. I think it's just the chaos of it that is going to be utterly harmful to us on this plane.
I agree.
Could there be something in the mind?
There still quite possibly could be beings that would come through as well that live in that realm, but obviously that is beyond really our knowledge. Even my own contact with spirits is still essentially of this plane. But it's something we want to present either way.
The mines of Cornwall basically produce minerals, chemicals, yes? So this might actually be a very important place to accomplish the sort of endeavor they're trying to accomplish.
Well, I think that there is a lot of belief here. And in our line of work with our organization, we encounter these sorts of things quite often. Now, just because people believe it doesn't mean it's true, but doesn't mean that there are forces out there that will not make it true, or things will happen that may lean towards making that hypothesis true, even if it is not. I guess the point I'm trying to make is we don't know, but let's go find out. Let's do some science.
Okay. So, does that mean you're going to head out after the professor?
Yes, I think it will do, yes.
Okay. So, your journey, again, it's tipping down with rain, is 4 miles should really take you no more than an hour or so. It takes you a couple of hours, really. Fairly easy to find because it is this highest point in Cornwall, and the moors are relatively flat, and a large granite outcrop on which you can see that there's a degree of tentage, campage, that is kind of a base point. And then there's this large, in effect, rocket ship that is angled at about 45-degree angle for the moment. By the time you arrive there, you can see that the professor is giving instructions out. Ned is on watch, and Sally, who you haven't met before, who's kind of like an urchin that is moving in and out of all of the machinery with quite a large sort of spanner, kind of working on things and doing what the professor is asking. He's standing under a piece of canvas and the rain is clattering down on it, and he sort of sees you and kind of waves. What? Come, my friends, come. We grow ever closer. If only the weather would be more clement.
Well, I mean, I've always heard that there's always fog on Bodmin Moor, so you're lucky.
Indeed. Maybe a portent. So, what do you think? Magnificent, isn't it?
Is it
Yes, very
magnificent?
phallic.
I mean, it's steampunk Victorian rocket. I mean, you have literally no idea whether this thing is. I mean, it's a technical sort of marvel, really. Rather than like this looks like a death trap that is just going to explode when he attempts to make a launch. You can see there's a fair amount of blueprints around and everything else, and it doesn't take you long as he's quite keen to explain what he's trying to do as he increases and builds upon what he told you last night. And his theory is not too bad. He certainly doesn't think that he's doing anything wrong, and certainly doesn't think that he's doing anything than trying to travel to the moon. You don't see that there's any ulterior motives of this is a ritual to rip a hole in time space and cause things to spill through. It might be a side effect, but it is just a might. Looking at the sort of ritual and looking at the equations, the time that the portal will be open is more or less instantaneous. I mean, the big danger is if it's mistimed, because it's not that he's going to slam into a brick wall if the portal isn't open because it's air, but if the portal doesn't open, he might end up in the Bristol Channel.
While Professor Morgan is engaging the professor in all this discussion over the blueprints,
Yes.
I would have been towards the back anyhow, so I would probably have lingered by the door, and I would like to sneak out with my bleed detector and just have
Absolutely.
a
Cross
stealthy recce.
Cross the piece of equipment off, and yes, there's bleed here, as there would be expected to be. It's not in a desperate sort of shape, but wherever there is the occult or the supernatural, there is always a residue of bleed.
Is it stronger in anywhere in one place than another?
It is coming from the rocket ship.
It does suggest some level of material or bound component that's already causing bleed.
And then can I okay, so what I would like to do is have my bleed detector just casually in my pocket and pretend to be an eccentric, slightly crazy woman taking in the sights because I've never been here before. And I would like to keep checking it to see if maybe, following from what Magdalena said the night before about needing all these innocents, if maybe there are like children being kept in an old abandoned cave or something. So I'd like to go for a long stroll.
That has escalated very rapidly, but I like the fact that you've decided to go off across Bodmin Moor by yourself. Excellent.
Professor, if you can get access to the ship at all, perhaps he would be willing to give you a tour.
I mean, it's a cockpit on a rocket. It's not in any way a spaceship. It's
No.
it's literally he sits in the front of the rocket with a helmet on, and he is blasted into space.
But I should still like to see it.
Yes,
Would you mind getting in it for me, and so I can have a quick look at you inside?
It sort of takes you in, and it's basically like a World War One aircraft cockpit, basically. I mean, this is the level of technology here. And
I'd like to survey, actually.
Yeah.
No, focus to inspect it.
Yeah.
And just take in everything about it, and with the plans, just focus on how the heck this thing's going to get back to Earth. So referencing to the questions earlier of how would it get back? Is there a way it could physically get back the same way?
Okay. Give us a roll, please.
Right, that's my normal die.
Okay.
And that's my gilded die.
I don't think you've rolled above a 3 at the moment.
I haven't, no.
It doesn't really matter what kind of dice you roll as well. So he talks you through it as you kind of are looking around. None of it makes particular sense to you, but he's trying to explain that sort of coming back is easier because you kind of fall to Earth rather than having to sort of move upwards. You're coming downwards, and it seems to make sort of sense. He says it's going to take.
How does he stop it? How does he stop falling to Earth?
Well, this is why we will be looking over there. And he points to, you can just see through the rain and the mist and anything, the sea. Splashdown.
You know, you'll teleport back, won't you? And then go down. Are you coming straight from the moon back?
Oh no, it's one way with the folding. The next way is falling down.
Falling. What speed do you think you'll be going when you hit the water?
Fairly fast, but it's shaped. You know the way. Do you do the swimming?
I sometimes do calisthenics.
Yeah, when you come off
like
the board. Yeah, when you come off the board, you put your arms together, and this is why it's shaped like it is. So it should be sleek into the water.
So it's been designed to take both atmospheric pressures of the water and the atmospheric pressures of the heavens. Interesting. I'm just gonna take a quick look at the rivet work and just.
You're not entirely sure, not because of your poor rolls, but this is an eccentric professor. You know, in theory, looking at the schematics and everything else, this definitely has a chance to do it. But it'd be the first time this professor actually has ever succeeded.
Yes, I must say, and I can genuinely say this, I am impressed.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So what is the most critical part of this machine? Like what will make it work, and if it's not there, just can't make it work? You know, the most vulnerable part of your spaceship?
Well, it has several vulnerabilities, of course. You know, there is well, the explosive matter. Without the fuel, we won't get a good. We need to get a certain way up before we open up the portal. I kind of want to give it clearance so that any uses the word bleed, any bleed that would come wouldn't have any kind of, it would dissipate in the atmosphere.
Is there, like, you as the pilot, I assume, decide when to open the portal? Is there
Yes,
like
yes,
a
yes,
lever
yes.
you pull?
Indeed. It's not quite as simple as a lever. It's actually a knob that we have to twist. But yeah.
Magdalena knows enough.
Okay. So let us see, Mildred, as you have gone off by yourself into the wilderness and it's raining, you lose sight of the rocket and you're using your bleed detector, and I do need either a sense or a focus.
We'll go for a focus. And I have no drive in this. So if anyone wants me to,
You're on your own. We can't help you.
It's one way to get rid of me.
I could give you one in focus.
You can. I'm more than happy for that. I mean, you are by yourself, but it is a cooperative game.
Thank you.
Channeling vibes to you.
I feel the vibes. I feel the vibes. Thank you for the vibes.
6. Well done. Yeah, your bleed detector goes off and you've uncovered a fair amount of bleed away from this, much more than was around the rocket. Following it cautiously, you uncover an entrance, one of these wreckers' tunnels that cover the entirety of Bodmin Moor.
Okay. I don't think that I will go in by myself, but I think that I will take I think I'll make a little cairn of my own, maybe
It's going to
3
be
yards off to
difficult.
the.
It's going to be difficult to re-find this. I mean, it's a desolate place with this raid.
I'm going to make, but in the hopes of refinding it, I'm going to make
Yeah.
a little cairn a few
Understand.
yards off to the side.
Understanding.
And I am going to. Gosh. Following Dahlia's sort of mental signals and my own memory of which way I came, maybe every 50 yards or so, I'm going to tear off a bit of my underskirt and put it under another cairn.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's going to take me a long time to get back, but hopefully there will then be little findable cairns of underskirt. It'll take it an age, but it should at least exist.
So you've left a very definite trail from this tunnel back to the rocket. Very nice.
Yeah.
Okay, you get back to the rocket. You get back there, Mildred.
And I'll just come back to the very entryway of the door as if I'd never been gone, and I'm not going to say a word until we're far, far out of earshot.
Okay, so you carry on with your investigations. Is there anything else that you want to ask? Anything you want to do? Mildred has arrived back, or are you going to head off elsewhere?
As soon as we're out of earshot of any of the other people on the site, I will say, it seems that if we blow up the rocket ship, we can do so safely without activating the portal, using their chemical fuel.
Well, I mean, and I dread to say this, especially because of the way I've been rolling tonight. I may be able to mix something up as an additive for the fuel that could change things for him. You know, either blow him up or, well, we could do something else. But I mean, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few.
I think if we could blow it up when everyone's back at the inn, that would be the safest. I'm not sure if anyone else is still out here at night in the tents.
You mean when he's not in it? I was thinking
Yes.
it goes up and then...
No.
Oh, well.
Bad boy, Professor Morgan.
I mean, well, I must say I am relieved. It's not going to be murderers yet.
No, that was not my intent to commit murder. I was going to blow up the rocket when no one was around, preferably including us not being around.
Well,
Like
But we
some
heard
sort
him
of time
say that
delay.
he was just going to rebuild and try again. So
Does he really
what
have
point would
finances to do so?
served? Dahlia, I'm sorry?
Does he have the finances to do so, though?
He will
It
be
didn't
ruined.
sound like it, but he asserted that he would.
Indeed, he might well try again.
But if, for example, his rocket blows up and it's determined that it was his fault, and we can make it look like it was his fault, well, knowing what I know about these clubs and societies, he'll be a laughingstock. An absolute laughingstock. And, well, I mean, I hate to see someone brought low by their own invention, but also we need to make sure that something bad doesn't happen here. So if we could manufacture some way of well, making sure that the blueprints are maybe tampered with as well.
And we are on our way back to the Jamaica Inn at this point?
No, you've just kind of moved away a little bit. I mean, they can't hear you.
Okay.
You're out of sight to have this private conversation, so you can judge whether you're going to do it immediately now or whether you want to wait until everybody's come back. Doesn't mean you come out on the moors at night time.
There's more at stake. Much more at stake. More at stake.
What we could do is take up Mildred's idea of pretending to walk off near sunset towards this this countryside retreat where her friend works, and then say to the others, "Oh, we will like rejoin you at the inn maybe tomorrow morning. Stay overnight at this place," and then basically hunker down somewhere out of sight and wait until everyone's gone from the rocket site, and then place the explosive and blow up the rocket while we're safely away at this other person's, mention.
More at stake.
What is at stake, Mildred?
Later.
Right. Well, shall we head over to your friend then, or at least pretend to, and then we can have a chat when we're a little bit away? Okay. Well, I guess unless there's anything else anyone else wants to do, we can bid our farewells to the professor and head around the corner.
Okay. And Mildred, are you going to say what you need to say? And then we'll move time on till night time. Mildred?
Between here and if you find little cairns with little bits of, and I just sort of reach down to my skirt so you see where it's been ripped.
What's left of it?
Showing
So,
ankle.
No, it's fine.
so you know they're mine. It'll be hard to see in the rain, but they're there. They're there. They end at an entrance to an old wrecker's cave. I didn't go in by myself, but there was so much bleed on the rocket and so much more bleed in this entrance. Magdalena, I think what you said about innocence, I think there are, I don't know, children down there, chemicals, whatever you make innocence out of, it's down there. And if it's people, we have to save them. We have to release them. We can't just leave them. And if it's something that isn't people, we have to make sure it can't be used this way again by somebody else who builds a rocket. The rocket seems to be the easy part. We can't. It's not just the rocket. It's not just the rocket.
Well,
Okay, so we set the explosive on the rocket and
then investigate.
go to this tunnel entrance.
Okay. So, because we are running out of real time, you wait till nightfall. Well, just before they don't set off after dark. The sun is going down as best as it can. You see them moving off to Jamaica in 4 miles away. You go to the rocket site and you're going to attempt to sabotage it. This is using your chemical concoction speciality.
It is, yes. So it will be using my using my chemical concoction, so using my laboratory equipment. I would like to create something explosive, and I would also like to tick off a small mundane invention, and that invention will be basically a lighting, a timer lighting mechanism.
Now you're using a speciality. Chemical concoction, you know how to mix chemicals together to achieve particular effect. When you take laboratory equipment as gear, you may spend a few minutes concocting a mixture that is acidic, explosive, flammable, etc., etc. Nowhere in that paragraph does it say you need to make a dice roll. You'll be pleased to know.
No. But I need to put it into the thing somewhere.
Yeah.
So I was assuming that I will be using my well, in fact, no, I could give it to somebody else, someone that's got a better maybe control than I have, because I don't have good control. So if I could basically, if Magdalena's happy to do it, give it to Magdalena, the fuse and the stuff, and say, this is how you do it. This is where you need to put it, and talk Magdalena through it, but not actually do the work myself because I'm just all thumbs,
I could use either control, which is finesse, but also sleight of hand. I'll let you decide which.
I'm easy with either. You as a group, this is kind of almost the end roll of the game, so there's a chance that if you fail in this critical roll, you might just blow your entire party up. So spend your drives if you've got drives.
Yep.
I think in order to make it look like Sterling made a mistake, it would have to fall under like distract and sleight of hand.
Perfect.
Like hiding the evidence, making sure that the mundane object that we're going to use is obliterated, so it needs to be in a certain position, that sort of stuff.
Lovely.
I can give you a drive.
Yeah, I will be as well.
So this is cunning that you're going to use, and then hide. You currently have 2 in that. Mildred is giving you 1. Professor Morgan is giving you 1, which puts it up to 4.
I'm also using 2 of my own drives, so that will make it
Perfect.
6, and I have 1 gilded in those.
Lovely job. Okay, so very good. Partial
Yeah, the 5.
Yeah. Yeah, you're convinced there'll be a complication. You're not quite sure what that is, but you are successful in that. This will sabotage the rocket. That
Before
is
we clear out, I quickly check the tents to make sure that no one's in them.
no. Everybody has gone back. You saw them quite clearly as you were scouting. So, job done. Really, a success. But it seems that Mildred has discovered another source of bleed. What do you intend to do with that? Are you going to follow these little strips of skirt to this source of bleed?
I think
I
we're
would
going to
like
have
to bring everyone with me there.
Okay, so it's easy enough to re-find with your bleed detector and the trail that you've left. And as I say, it's not so much a cave as a tunnel that sort of disappears into the darkness. And you are right, there's a lot of bleed within this tunnel.
So we just follow this, and we'll end up where the most bleed is. You ready, everyone?
Does the tunnel lead back underneath the rocket by any chance?
No, you're a distance away from it, maybe 15 minutes or so. I mean, it could do. This place is. But the level of bleed that Mildred is getting from the device is much greater than what he was getting from the rocket. So, 2 separate things, and you begin to make your way down the tunnel, and it's kind of a little bit of a labyrinth of old wreckers tunnels, alcoves, little places to stash. Probably one of you has got a torch or a flashlight or some kind of equipment to allow you to see, because you came out in daytime and it's now down in a tunnel that is very dark.
Magdalena did have the carriage lamp, so
Yeah, I probably would have taken it with me because we didn't know what time we would get back.
Okay.
and
So
I'll
look,
probably be running ahead because I don't care if my clothes get dirty, and I've got the detector, and I'm really, really anxious about
okay,
what we're
yeah.
going to find.
So, running ahead, you find the source of the bleed, or rather, it sees you first as a hulking form rises up, befurred, toothed. You have found the beast of Bodmin, or rather, it has found you. And that is where we will end this tale tonight.
We all hear the screams and all right, so yeah.
Wow, you are in a labyrinth of tunnels. Do you escape? Do you not? Has Mildred met their end? That is another story to tell because we have overrun a little bit, and I want to say a massive thank you to everybody staying with us. I hope you all enjoyed that. We'll have a quick round the table chat, a couple of minutes before we say good nights, because I do know that people need to be up early tomorrow. So we start off with you, Natascha. How did you find it? Favourite bits, not favourite bits, etc., etc., etc.
As you said before, I played this scenario a couple of days ago, I think, Sunday. But this is indeed completely different because the composition, the decision that a group makes, and the characters in it. I had a completely new character for this one compared to the previous game. So it does play completely different, and it's not like the same scenario at all.
No, there's so many variables, and I mean the ending is somewhat different as well. But yeah, thank you for obviously not not spoiling or metagaming. It was very interesting to have you there to bring out some very, very interesting points. Jocelyn.
I really liked the pacing, and there's something about the video layout. I can Rachel, same as always. I can always barely hear you, so I'm always treading on your toes. And Kristian and Natascha just have better mics for me. I don't know why. So it's crisper when you're starting and ending. But I find that sharper audio just makes everything flow more. And this whole scenario felt pacier. And I don't know if it was the writing of the scenario or the people or the choices we happened to make. But it felt like good pace. And I was really thrilled that given my backstory, I was really thrilled to meet this Beast of Bodmin Moor because it actually really rounds out her whole story.
Yeah, absolutely. Rachel.
Yeah, so I enjoyed it. I like the fairly straightforward system. Is very similar to Blades in the Dark, but obviously that we played already. And I like a sort of setting where there's a bit of an occult feel, some mysticism and mystery in what's happening. So I liked to be able to lean into that with my character and do stuff like the tarot reading. There's not a specific skill for this kind of thing, but
the game allows for it.
Yeah. I think it's just a shame we've run out of time, really. We've what's going on with the like the occult lady and how he's making it work or what would happen. But obviously, we've rounded up with like his rocket is done for now, and Beast is out there.
It's an interesting one, as there are multiple ways of solving this. Some of stuff you didn't even sort of potentially touch. Not that you needed to touch on it.
No.
And I kind of like this sandbox kind of thing. And if you haven't already, if you go on Wikipedia and Google, many of the things that have been mentioned here are real life myths. I mean, you can see when you kind of watch the thing, Brown Winnie is between Natascha's and my head. It's actually a location, and I've put the Bodmin map as the backdrop here.
Jamaica Inn actually exists as well.
Jamaica Inn. It's
I've
like
been to it.
Yeah. So have I. Daphne du Maurier's novel. It's kind of all there. The Legends of King Arthur, and it's felt to me a lot more scope than in a contained fantasy setting. Plus, it's just really nice to touch on those other things. The Beast of Bodmin I've kind of changed up a little bit. Supposedly, it's a large cat rather than I'm not going to say a werewolf because we don't really know whether it is a werewolf, but it was more werewolf-esque for the nature of the moon and everything else. But yeah, really enjoyed it. Last but not least, Kristian.
I enjoyed myself tonight. I was actually I'm happy it was modified real world, because that's something I enjoy much more.
Yeah.
And I found the setting easy to play, which was good. It is very similar to Blades in the Dark. I will say I continue to prefer Blades in the Dark. That might just be my own personal biases speaking, though. But I've enjoyed the game. I've really enjoyed the game, and I want to find out more about this world. So, and I will say the Jamaica Inn you presented was very different from the one I went to, which was more a bit like a gastropub / service station.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, this is Jamaica Inn in Victorian times.
Yeah.
Rather than it is an inn. It's got a museum of smuggling in now and all sorts of things. It's on a dual carriageway or a double road. I don't think they have.
Yeah, the A30. Yeah.
It was fun to see your faces when Edgar said, "I'm going to send you back in time," and you all went, "Oh, well, that started off. Are you going to Cornwall?"
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
Then we understand.
Yeah.
No, thank you very much, all of you, for playing, and thank you very much for, I know that some of you got early starts tomorrow, so I definitely appreciate it. So if you have enjoyed it, please give us a like and a subscribe. It really helps the channel out. And in the meantime, I'm going to say a big good night to you, Cast, and a good night to anybody who is still watching us at the moment. Goodbye, good night, everybody. Till next time. Bye for
Bye, guys.
now.
Bye.
Bye.